It gives me very great pleasure to welcome you all here today. I would like to say how pleased we are here at Kelleher's to be associated in conjunction with Ford with Sheepson and Nogue in the centenary year of the GAA. We are very pleased to have with us the representative of the Cork County Board and of the various clubs in the Musgrave Division. And now for the man behind that voice known throughout Ireland and indeed the world, I give you Michal O'Hehir.
Ballyhere of Galera Cardia, or something like that I heard somewhere or other. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be here in Macroom for a number of reasons. Amongst them, of course, the fact that Macroom has given many fine players to the GAA, and of course men of the calibre of Tucker Casey and Mick Gould, and to a minor degree, and I mean minor, Tim Sullivan, who had what was literally minor success. But my presence here today isn't to talk about the glories of Tucker or the glories of Macroom, but rather to express a great pleasure of being part of something that I think has been very worthwhile, and I think indeed the whole country knows that it's been very worthwhile. That is the distribution of the goodies, if you like, the hurleys and the footballs, as a result of the momentous Scéim don Óige that has been started early this year and has now reached its climax. This, as you know, is centenary year in the GAA. And since early in the year, we have had a number of inspiring and great events. But for a long time it appeared that the people who were making all the speeches at the various functions were so deeply involved in the glories of old Ireland that they were thinking so much in the past that something seemed to be missing. And the people of Henry Ford and Sons Sales Limited got the idea of Scéim don Óige. This was a scheme that Ray Walsh will be telling you more about it in just a moment, a scheme to bring to the youth the equipment, the hurleys and the footballs, to help them become possibly the stars of the future, but if not the stars, the people who would enjoy their hurling and their football. It was a move looking ahead, and while the centenary year is a great thing to celebrate 100 years of existence of this association, the fact that people are now looking into the second century is perhaps even more important than the fact that 1 century of success has been achieved. And that's what I'm here today for, to help in some way, some small way, to put over the fact that something very worthwhile has been done. Done for the GAA as a whole and for the young people in particular. And you know, lads, I see you smiling with satisfaction that it's for you, and it is for you. And you know, somewhere down there in that group, there might be somebody that in a few years' time will be out on the field winning an All-Ireland for Cork. And more luck to you if you do. But if you don't win an All-Ireland, if you go out and play and enjoy yourself, that really is what it's all about. You know, the crowds and the bands and all the hullabaloo in Croke Park on All-Ireland final day, or in Semple Stadium or wherever, it's great. It's great to be part of it. It must be wonderful to be out on the field. But for every one man that's out there representing his county, there are scores upon scores of young lads who never made the county team. Some of them mightn't even make the club team. But as they play, they enjoy themselves. And it's to help their enjoyment that Scéim den Oige was instituted. And we hope that you will benefit and continue to enjoy your games through what's happening here today. And now, may I introduce to you Ray Walsh, the marketing manager of Henry Ford & Sons Sales Limited. Ray?
Thank you, Michal. As everybody knows, the GAA is celebrating its centenary year this year, but Michael, in fact, has to wait until next year to celebrate his centenary. And I don't mean, of course, that he's 99 years of age, but simply that he, this year, broadcast his 99th All-Ireland final, which is a fantastic achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know only too well, the country is in the middle of an economic recession. However, I believe that we can look forward to brighter days ahead with confidence, because Ireland has a major asset which will contribute to our future well-being. That asset is, of course, our young people. And in Ireland, we have a very high percentage of people, of people under the age of 25, over 50% in fact, which makes Ireland unique in European terms, and which will be of enormous help to us in the future. Of course, the needs of these young people must be catered for today, and in this, its centenary year, the GAA is to be congratulated and complimented in fulfilling a magnificent role in catering for the sporting and cultural life of young people over the past 100 years. To support the GAA in its efforts and to reinforce Ford Ireland's commitment to the youth of this country, Ford and the Irish Ford dealers launched Scéim den Oige in April of this year. Under Scéim den Oige, for every car sold in the months of April, May and June, Ford dealers and Ford made a financial contribution to the GAA. The total sum generated was £54,000. That sounds like somebody saying bingo. As agreed with the GAA, the money has been used to buy hurleys and footballs for use by under 16 players at club level throughout the country. Of the sum of £54,000, £8,000 will be distributed to juvenile clubs in the Cork area alone. As a former chairman of the Nemo Rangers Hurling and Football Club underage section, I know only too well the difficulties which clubs face in their efforts to cater for the younger players, and I know that the clubs will make good use of the equipment. Some thought was given to the best manner of distributing the equipment, and the GAA authorities have decided, and wisely I believe, that rather than give a lot to some clubs, that every club in the country should get some equipment. At the moment, Kishton and Bonbon in Cork are manufacturing, I think, something like 7,500 hurleys for us, and Connolly's in Galway are working on 2,500 footballs, and these will be distributed to the clubs by the dealers, I think in about 4 to 6 weeks' time. So today's handover is a symbolic one, and I'd like to hand you back now to Michael to tell you more about that. Thank you very much.
You know, every county has its backroom, boys and men. And Cork is particularly fortunate to have some of the best backroom people in the country helping to drive on the players who go out on the field. And having in mind a particular man from a Cork backroom, may I bring to the front room the Cork GAA representative here today, Dennis Conroy, one of the best of the backroom.
Accorda, on behalf of Cork County Board, I'm very pleased to be here today in the home of football. At least, as a young boy, whether it was the late Major conjured it up or not, Macroom always to me was the home of football. Clonakilty disputed it on a few occasions. I don't know who won that battle. But we're here in the Muskerry division trying to make a small effort to appreciate the effort of this great firm of Henry Ford and Sons, who conjured up this idea in our centenary year to show appreciation for what our youth were doing in this here country of ours. We're here in a kind of a mixed situation. On my right is Macroom, the home of football, and from there to the county bounds. On my left is our Bullock and Clodove, the home of hurling. And our first hurling All-Ireland was won by Clodove, who happened to be covered with this area, lucky or unlucky as they may be to be mixed up with the home of football. But be that as it may be, their sister club, Canavy, would dispute it. But we are here to show, on behalf of the board, I'm here to show our appreciation to Messieurs Kelleher as their agent and Henry Ford for this magnificent gesture in Scame na Nog. It's a great occasion. We were in Mill Street this morning, we're in Macroom this afternoon. Two football areas where hurling seemed to be catching on. And this idea of presenting to our juveniles and our juvenile clubs hurling and footballs in this our centenary year, when we have delved into the past and we have heard of nothing else for the past 8 or 9 months but the glories of the past. Well, glorious and all as they may be, we still have to come down to terra firma and look to the future. And this gesture to look after our youth is something that we in the Cork County Board appreciate in no uncertain terms. It is something that was never before done. It may never again happen. Just imagine, Tucker, we have to live another 100 years for this thing to happen. Will you make it? I will. I don't know about you. But while I am in Macroom and speaking in this area, it was grand to renew all acquaintance with Din Connor of Mill Street this morning of the 45 team, with Toker this afternoon of the same team, to meet the gentlemen footballers like Mick Gould and the other people who made history and were unlucky. Unlucky is the only way I can describe it. I thought we might have won an All-Ireland with Wishy and Mick Gould and Dineen, 3 vets. I thought they'd let nothing pass, but apparently vets can be bluffed too, you know. Mick, there was reactors past you anyhow, and that was it. But be that as it may, it's grand to be here. It's grand to see the youth. That's what we're here. That's our primary objective here today, is to meet those boys and girls who will be here long after we are gone, and to try and tell them what this all about. This isn't a question of giving out free hurleys and footballs. This is a question of giving you the material so that you may emulate the glories of those who went before you, to remember your members of the Gaelic Athletic Association, Cumann Lú Class Gael, to remember that what is expected of you is to try and pass fellas like McGould that didn't win an All-Ireland and win an All-Ireland, to try and bring back to your own Muskerry area something that has passed you for a while. Remember, the club is first. You play for your village, for your club, for your county, but always in the subconscious is this to be remembered, that you're an Irish boy, that you will grow to be an Irishman, that Ireland is your country, and that you have for that what you learned at the cradle, the same love as you had for your mother. Because Ireland was your mother's mother and will be your mother when the time arises. We must try and pay to our country the homage that is due to it. We must try and make the sacrifices that is expected of us at all times. And if we look back again for just a few short moments and remember that after the famine of 47 and 8, 40 years from then, a new shamrock appeared, Cumann Lú Class Gael, from a hungry, downtrodden people that lifted us to the great heights that I think we have achieved today. Forget about governments for one moment and think. Just close your eyes and think. What would this country have done if we didn't have Cumann Lú Class Gael? Where would we have spent our summer evenings? Where would we have spent our Sundays afternoons? What would this country have done but for Cusick and that great man that should never be forgotten, Croke? Of course, some people will hold it against him. He was a Corkman. Other people might try to hold it against him that he was the Archbishop of Cashel. But nobody can ever deny the fact that Croke made no doubt of where he stood. He was an Irishman of outstanding qualities and abilities. This was the man that made it possible for all of us. He was the man that united church and politics. He was the man that brought together all of us people to be here in Macroom today to give to our youth what is badly needed, what Henry Ford and Sons, the idea they conceived to give to our youth, what is necessary to play hurling, hurleys, what is necessary to play football, a football. I sincerely hope that this will never be forgotten, that they'll be utilised to the full extent, that their games will be played as we would want them played, clean, manly, and for the sake of the village, in the words of Kickham. Garamila Mahagim Galer.
Dennis. You know, ladies and gentlemen, when I heard Dennis saying that he was going to be round for the next centenary, you know, you think he was joking. Knowing Dennis, he will. And now it's time for the presentation. And we're going to ask Michal O'Hehir to, as the Ford dealer here in Macroom, to make the presentation of the hurleys and the footballs. This is just, as Ray explained earlier, a symbolic presentation, and if he would make it indeed to Dennis, who will receive them on behalf of the Cork GAA. And the clubs that will receive them, Macroom, Valera, Ahina, Nave Aben, Kilnamatra, Ahabalog, Donoghmore, Balangiri, Kilmichael, Clondrahad, Kilmurray, Canavy and Clotdove.
Okay.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when somebody suggested that I'd come on this tour, I was wondering, now, what am I going to do besides just introduce the people? Because sing I do not. But it struck me that sometimes some of you people, and particularly the lads here, who get closer and closer, that the lads and the ladies and the gentlemen might have been listening in or looking in at a game, and you said to yourself, if I ever come face to face with that fella, I'd love to ask him something might strike you. Now, I'm not putting this up as a quiz show or anything like that, somebody's going to ask who won the All-Ireland in 1961 or something. Not that kind of a thing, but if there's anything to do with the broadcasting or anything like that, or the players or anything, that you felt that somehow, house is down, that somehow or other you'd like to ask a question. Well, now is the hour. Any questions? Yes, sir. How do you know the names of the players? Well, my job is to be a commentator. And a lot of people think that that is to do, that you just go along to the match and you sit down with a microphone and you talk about the match. But before I go along, I do a lot of homework. Not Eckers now, homework. Studying the players, the positions they're in, and if a team is coming up that I haven't seen before, I'll go along and have a look at them, maybe in a league match or something, or if not, I'll go into the dressing room or the hotel or somewhere to have a look at them. And that way you get them into your head. But for me, going to a match is a job of work. Selling cars is Michael's job here. I'd be no good at that. Now, I don't know how good he'd be as a commentator, but he puts in the same kind of homework on his business as I put into mine. And that's how you get to know the players. You look at players and the fellow that has his socks down around his ankles, or the fellow that has the fair hair over here, or the fellow that hasn't got any hair at all. These kind of things. Exactly. He hasn't any teeth. Yeah, he has. You know, these are the things. You get these into your mind, and that's the help to do a commentary. Do you want to be a commentator? You a good judge. Yes. I'm not too sure now about this and that at the moment. But now take it easy now. Think it out.
How do they work for a sign television when you're commentating with just sitting around? How do you get that one?
Well, you have nowadays they have a thing called a lip microphone that you hold up like this, and the idea of that is that you talk into it, and the only other thing that goes on the air, that goes out, or the only thing that goes out, is what you say into that lip microphone. And there are other microphones outside in the stand. And the noise of the crowd is being picked up by those microphones. And there's a man downstairs in a van that's supposed to be mixing the two together so that what the listeners at home hear is what the commentator says into the lip mic with a mumble in the background. Sometimes he drowns the commentator, but a mumble in the background of the crowd. The big harness you might have seen, this was the thing that was over my shoulders in that, which was probably racing, because in that it's a shoulder piece, and there's a holder here for the lip mic, which holds the mic up here, and that way you have your two hands free, so that you can put up the glasses and see. Because if I was trying to do a race now, holding the glasses in one hand and the microphone in the other, I'd be going up and down like that. Okay? Right. Anybody else? Yes?
Well, and the other following Kerry and Dublin, when Barney Rock was told by, or we got the told
Sorry for laughing at you, but I'm not laughing, I'm with you.
and he was sent down some for that, got her open and sent him like that, and she was like, if you want to hear, you only didn't hear them at all.
Well, it's probably just as well you didn't hear them. No, they don't have microphones out on the field to pick up what the players might be saying out there, because some people mightn't like to hear what some of the players had to say at that time. What happened that day was Barney Rock went down and he thought he should get a free, and he played a little bit to kind of influence the referee. He's not the only player that does that. There are a few others do it as well. But he did that, but Mick Holden knew the time was running out. And he came over to him and roughly said, would you please get up and continue the game, because we've a lot of work to do in the last few minutes. Roughly. Anybody else?
You know, you completed many matches all through your life, and what All Ireland that you, it was the greatest one that you remember. And there was some great All Ireland in the past, you know. What one you hold here in your memory about much about that?
Are you talking hurling or football?
From each code, you know, what is.
Well, the most memorable final for me was the one in 47 in New York in the Polo Grounds, when the All Ireland was played over there between Kerry and Cavan, because in those days relays of anything from America to Ireland was something very unusual, and I was the link, as it were, between the people at home who felt they should be looking at the All Ireland and the game in New York. That was certainly the most memorable one from my point of view. Hurling, oh, I don't know, around the same time, I know I'm going back a long time, but on the Sunday before the Sunday we left for New York, there was one great game between Cork and Kilkenny, and they were some. I tell you, one occasion that I thought had a very special thing about it was the year that Galway won the All Ireland, the hurling final recently, and the atmosphere after that, and Joe Connolly's speech and Joe McDonough's song and all that. You know, that's the kind of thing that the GAA is all about. And no matter how people start to regiment the presentations of All Ireland finals, the day that we stop having that kind of enthusiasm, well, I want to be somewhere else. Yes? To forgive divine. Lefty. Yeah. The arrangement was, and in all the broadcasts that have been done from America, by me anyway, that Radio Éireann would pay for the line costs, and would arrange with the company over there to put in microphones and everything else, and the GAA would pay my expenses and a magnificent fee for, to go out. But the president of the GAA at that particular time, Michal O'Hehir, was out in America about 2 or 3 months before this trip of the Meath team. And he went to Gaelic Park, and they had, and they still have there, a system that is used in other sports in America, where they have like a course commentator, like they have in the races here, that the man would say, Toher Casey, Mick Gould, that's so-and-so, and identify them. And Kyo thought this was the greatest thing he had ever seen, and he got a bright idea that he would save the GAA the expense of sending me out. And he employed Lefty Devine to do the commentary. And I was, to say the least, a trifle annoyed. I was hopping mad about it. But the broadcast didn't turn out quite the way they had hoped it, that Michal O'Hehir hoped it would. And there was a big article, it was in the Irish press the following day, about, well, the difference of the broadcasts, what they were used to hear and what the American style was and so forth. And this is where the thing came up that O'Hehir was human to forgive Devine. Devine was Lefty Devine, a man who served the New York GAA long and well as this commentator. He was originally from Offaly, if I'm not mistaken, and he went, as I say, by the name of Lefty Devine. But that was when O'Hehir was human, or whatever he was, to forgive Devine.
Will you be commentating that training football to know, like,
It's a very good question. I'd be broadcasting the end of their tour, because at the beginning of the tour, well, I didn't know some months ago when they were coming, and I committed myself to go to the United States for something else, for a horsey engagement over there, and I won't be here for the first match. Question mark about the second, but I will be here for the third, because I wouldn't like to miss it, because I think the Australian-Ireland games are going to be something. A lot of people think they're going to be Mickey Mouse. They're not. They're going to be good. They're deadly. Now, in fairness, what you've seen on television, I mean, you could do this to Gaelic football and to hurling. You could take little bits and put them together and make them look like the most awful thing that ever was. And whoever put those pieces together of Australian rules, they picked all the dirt they could find in a number of matches and put them together. Don't judge Australian rules football as being a rough and tumble. It is a very good game, and a game that we might be able to learn something from, just as they can learn something from us. Okay? Yes? It doesn't, and it should get an awful lot more publicity. I think it's a crying shame that every year a lot of our government officials and GAA officials and everybody else go along to the All-Ireland final, Camogie final, and they give all kinds of lip service to Camogie. This year's All-Ireland final was, if you like, a trifle one-sided. It was unfortunate that it was the one that they decided to televise. In fact, originally that was to be televised live. And because somebody forgot to tell somebody else before they went on their holidays, it wasn't done live. But the last two All-Irelands before that, with Cork and Dublin, they were worth going a long, long way to see. And I think it's a crying shame that Camogie, which is such a good game, doesn't get a better show from the media. I know I've tried to do something over and over. Anybody else? Yes, sir. What's that? You have me. Anybody? Can anybody fill in on that one? Dennis? Did you hear that one? The hurling training that was going around the country during the summer, who organised it? What training was that? Training. It was done by the county board, was it? Within with the youth officers in the Cork County Board. Sorry, I didn't know more about that one. Anyone else? Well, take it easy. There's another fella down here. Let him get a word in. Yeah. What do... Oh, I see. You want just the picture. You're a television critic, are you? Huh? Well, you know, a lot of people say that, but I have an idea that that's all right for a slow-moving game like soccer or rugby, where things are very steady and staid and slow. But in Gaelic football and hurling, there's so much fast movement that it's inclined, I think anyway, to help the whole atmosphere of the thing to be with the players and to identify them as they go on. Okay? You were there a minute ago. How are you? You're fine, right?
Do you like commentating?
I do. I love it. Would you like to be a commentator? Why?
Because you've been
I don't know. Right. It'd be boring, I can tell you. It can be a lot of things, but it's not boring. Yeah? Why did I pick to be a commentator? I was in school, and I wrote in to the director of broadcasting asking for a test, because I just felt that I'd be, you know, that I'd enjoy doing it. And that was when I hadn't done my leaving at the time. And I got a test and passed the test and started talking, and I'm still talking. That was a long time ago. But I did it because I felt that I would enjoy it. Hello, he's gone. Anybody else? Oh, I did me leave. Thank you, Dennis. With friends like you, yeah. I did, Dennis, and I haven't left yet. No, my first test was a National Football League game in Croke Park between Wexford and Louth. The test was, there were 5 others, 5 of us all together, and we each did 5 minutes of the first half of this match, and it went back straight to the director of broadcasting in the GPO. It was Dr. Kiernan, who was later our ambassador in Australia and in Washington. And I turned up in my school blazer and school cap to do the thing, and I was the last 5 minutes, and he got through on the phone to the engineer and asked would the man who did the last 5 minutes do the second half of the match, which I did, and he seemed to like it, but I heard nothing for a couple of weeks. And one day when I was going into school, I got off my bike and found a telephone in Drumcondra. They weren't as plentiful then as they are now, but they did work then. And I rang up and asked for the director and said who I was and that I had done the test. Oh, he said, I was just going to write to you. Could you ever get off from work for a little while and come in and see me? So the following day, dare I say it, but I mitched from school and went into him, and they had a disc. There were no such thing as tape recorders in those days, a metal disc which they had recorded some of the game, and he said, I'd like you to hear this, and a couple of suggestions I'd like to make, and we'd like you to do the match on the 14th of August in Mullingar. And for that match, including my fee and the expenses, £3.10. I know it meant more then than £3.10 score seems now, but there was no way I was going to retire and buy a Ford. Okay. 2 more. I did, and it's still there, Dennis. Two more. Or is that one? Oh, two more. Any more? Well, the problem... I'm an honest man, but I'm also a professional. And my job is to describe a game as I see it. The problem very often in that line is that I'm not the one that's biased. It's the person who's listening in and has an idea that if you say something good about the other fella's team, that you're criticizing his team. And it's a regular thing with me to get letters on the week after a game telling me how biased I was. But the strange thing is that most of these letters come from the followers of the team that loses. There's a model there somewhere. If some people had their way, they would have a commentator who would do nothing but talk about their own county. And to talk about the other county or the other team or anything, that's a kind of a sacrilege. Well, can I put it this way? I know, but can I put it this way? If Kerry are playing in a game, what about Michal O'Hehir? Do people make out that he's pro-Kerry because he trains the team? No, they don't, because he too is a professional. As I said, Dennis, there's some people who would need a commentator just for their own county. And oddly enough, I know you don't believe it, but I have been accused. Anybody else? How are you? I don't know what we do without you.
Who comes to church from him? That doing the
The minor, Michal O'Hehir. Yeah. Is that it?
The lads and trouble today, questions. We haven't unfortunately got enough t-shirts for everybody, but if I give Father Keane some t-shirts, we perhaps would have a draw, a raffle amongst the boys.
Here, here. Good idea. Sure.
I don't want to buy. Somebody get a phone. Raffle up the boy.
They're gone.
I know, would you go away?
No, there's some. All right. Don't let some of the little fellas cover me up. How are you? You're tuned well. Good luck, lads. Thanks a lot. And now here's Michael again.
Thanks, Michal. It only remains now for me to thank you all for being present and to invite you all to have a drink or a cup of tea with us. Thank you again.
Stand up straight now. Will you stoop down now so that Mavis could be seen? Come on, what the hell then?
Oh, he'll make sure.
How do you do, sir? No, I'm fine here. No, we're grand. We're grand here. Watch the birthday now. This bloody birthday is a strange fellow, you know. You wouldn't know us a yellow hammer or a titwit.
What do you say about football, Dennis?
Right,
Dennis, you can frame one way. Still there.
I'll tell.